Welcome back to my channel, my lovelies. Thank you so much for being here today and checking out to see what I have to say. If you guys don't know me, my name is Shelly and I'm a flight attendant for a major US airline. I am also a coach and I help thousands of flight attendant and pilots to actually get their jobs. You guys, they come to me, I do their resume, I do their coaching, and with that they are able to apply and get the coaching necessarily to get to the next level and get their dream job. So if you guys are needing a resume or needing some coaching because you're kind of rusty, you haven't been back in the game, so to speak, then definitely go and check me out at flywithshelly.com. Book your session with me. I will help you get your dream job. I promise you. I've helped thousands and thousands. You can see some reviews here and everybody is so excited to actually be the best version of themselves and finally be the flight attendant that they've always wanted to be. Now, with that said, you guys, today, this is a highly requested video. I've had so many messages saying, you need to cover this case. I don't do true crimes, but this kind of like piqued my interest and I decided to maybe start doing true crimes on my channel, anything related with airlines. And I thought this was so interesting because I've always been fascinated by true crimes. You guys, I've always wanted to be a detective. I want to dive in the case of Joseph, you guys, Joseph Emerson. Now, Joseph David Emerson is a pilot. And as you know, he came so close to basically ending it all for everyone in the plane. I think you guys have heard of this. This happened a few months ago. So let's start from the very beginning. Who is Joseph David Emerson? He is a pilot. He is very respected in his community. He is married to Sarah Stretch. Together, they have two beautiful boys. They are gorgeous, you guys. If you look online, now all this information I'm giving you is alleged information, you guys. All the information that I'm talking about is all online. You go, you do your own research and you come to your own conclusion. I am just repeating what I read and what I saw. All right. Now, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Make your own deductions and your own opinion on this subject. All right, you guys, so respected and so loved by his community. Everybody loved him around the area where he lived in California. Emerson actually joined Horizon as a first officer in 2001. Then around 2012, he left to join Virgin America. He then returned to Alaska Airline and started working in about 2016. He then became a captain for Alaska, you guys, in 2019. So he recently was a captain, literally 4 years. So that's very prestigious, you guys, because they have to work so hard to get to where they're at. You have to accumulate so many flying hours in order to become a first officer, and from there you gain the experience with a commercial airline to become a pilot. Now, you can do hours anywhere to gain experience, but to actually be a captain is so prestigious in the aviation industry, and it's a lot of work, you guys, for sure. Completed everything that he needed to do, you guys. The FAA, all right, are very strict. They have physicals every single year, you guys, to make sure the pilots are physically fit. All right, just like we get our recurrent. Our recurrent is more one-on-one to see if you can remember your commands and just to kind of refresh your mind on your training. So we have recurrent every year. Now the pilots do as well, but they also go through a rigorous physical checkup just to make sure their heart's okay, their body's okay, their mind is okay, because they are trusted with $1 million equipment, you guys, and 200 plus lives every single time, if not more, depending on which airline they work for. Completed his FAA medical mandated certification, so you know that he was okay, and at no point has his certification denied. Like throughout his whole career, you guys, never was it ever denied. Everything was going well for him. He was passing his physical, he was passing his you know, mental, everything was great. Like I said, the FAA said they're stamping him saying, let me check him mentally, physically, everything is good. Go. You can go and continue flying for an extra year, right? He was never suspended. His license was never revoked. He was never denied. So he was in great health mentally and physically. So Everett was scheduled to fly out of San Francisco. He had a flight out of San Francisco. He did not live there, so he needed to commute. So he commuted from Everett to San Francisco, and once he got to San Francisco, he was ready to work his shift. Now, when he went into the plane, a lot of times what happens is when you're commuting, you have choices. You can either sit in the cockpit or you can sit among the passengers. So you're basically commuting. Now, oftentimes when the pilots are stuck sitting in the front, it's because the flight is absolutely full, or they just want the company of the pilots and just hang out with them if it's a short flight. But most likely it's when it's full is when, you know, they are stuck in the front. They normally don't want to sit there. It is not as comfortable as where the pilots are seated. You're usually sitting in the row behind. There's no such thing as a row, but there is like a seat right behind the pilot, and that's where you kind of sit uncomfortably. You're strapped as well, just like the pilots, and you get to talk to them and chat with them throughout your flight, your commute. Joseph David was so excited. Also, I forgot to tell you guys that he had just finished a new training for a new plane. So you guys, if you go, let's say from 737 Boeing to Airbuses, you need specific training for every single airline so you know what you're doing. They all have different functions, they have different bodies, they have different electronics, and you need to get trained for each and every one. So he had just finished being trained for his new plane, which was so exciting because he had such an amazing and bright future ahead of him. Now, he was on flight 2059. Apparently, people saw him in the waiting area. He appeared absolutely normal. People at the gate say they smiled at him, they spoke with him, and he seemed very alert and just totally normal as well. He walked in, said hi to everyone, and made his way to the cockpit and sat with the two pilot and co-pilot, all right? Or first officer, if you will. He sat there, waited for the plane to take off, and apparently there was no apparent physical or verbal cues to let people know that maybe he's under the influence or he's under something. Everybody that talked to him seemed like he was okay. There was just no signs at all that there was something off about Joseph. So accordingly to the pilot and the co-pilot, they were having casual talk throughout the flight, you guys. So as they take off, right, up to 10,000 feet, it is known to not speak to the pilot or co-pilot. They are concentrating on getting that altitude up there. And but apparently they were talking, and he was absolutely coherent, and he was talking with them, and everything was fine until, you guys, see, this is when it really gets me, because anyways, I'll give you my opinion, you guys, at the end of this video, but I do want to say that this could be very alarming, especially if you're a person that is scared of flying, is scared of turbulence, and you trust your pilot so heartedly, and you know that your life is safe, and you know that it's safer to fly than actually drive, right? It is such a great experience to fly. There is a stress element if you're not used to it. That's why a lot of people will take drugs and alcohol. And when I say drugs, just a few pills to calm down. And when I say alcohol, you know, a few drinks to just calm down as well. So it's not always a pleasant experience for everyone. But for some of us, it's very stressful, right? All right, let's not sidetrack. So Joseph David Emerson was sitting there in the cockpit and decided to pull the two red fire handles, you guys, that could have activated the plane's emergency fire suppression system and cut off all of the fuel to its engine. Okay, this is no joke, you guys. This is super, super, super scary. The fact that he felt the need to do so while the pilots were in control, that to me says a lot. about his mental state and what he was feeling at that point. Allegedly said that he wasn't okay. Apparently, he repeated multiple times to the pilots and the co-pilot that he was not okay as he was reaching the red fire handles, you guys. So he's about to grab them and telling them, I am not okay. I am not okay. So the pilot and the co-pilot, you guys, try to subdue him. They try to control him. Could you imagine? I don't know, obviously you guys haven't been in a cockpit if you're not a pilot, but I have multiple times. Every time I fly, I have the opportunity to go in the cockpit, either to talk to the pilot or, you know, take care of some stuff. We're not supposed to kind of talk about that, but we are there constantly, especially when we're 30,000 feet in the air, when it's safe for us to go in and when they call us in. And the area of a cockpit, you guys, is so tiny. Seriously, you have two pilots here, and then you have this little space, and then you have this little seat that you can sit in the back, especially if you're jump seating, but it is so confined, so many buttons. It's so easy to reach anything and get this plane reacting to whatever you're touching. So he kept on saying, I'm not okay, I'm not okay, as he grabbed on to the red fire handles, you guys. Could you imagine the terror that they were feeling in the front here, watching this happening, thinking, what is going on? It probably took them a second to be like, what is he doing? Like, is there something going on that he needs to do that? Because they're trusting him, you guys. That's one of their own, right? But he wasn't, thankfully, guys. He wasn't able to pull the red T handles. Gosh. Thank you. He wasn't able to put it all the way down. He was starting to do it, but he wasn't able to do it to fully activate the engine shut off, you guys. The pilot wrestled him completely, put him down, and basically called the flight attendants. You guys, I could just imagine as a flight attendant getting this call saying, we need to get this pilot out of the cockpit. He's about to shut our engines down and make a lot of trouble for us. That is terrifying, you guys. So from the time that he started acting and trying to grab the handle to the time that he exited the cockpit, that was about 90 seconds. And I'm sure that that was the longest 90 seconds for these pilots to live this moment, because you don't know what's going to happen. Whatever he does damage wise, they have to undo it, and sometimes we don't have time to react and do whatever it is that he's doing. And in this case, he was shutting down the engines, you guys. This is like horrible. You can like survive on one engine, but two engines, you can't do it. I mean, you can glide, but I mean, the repercussion of his action could have cost everyone's lives on board, which is horrible. Okay. So from the time that he said, I'm not okay, and held the red handle to shut them down, he didn't do it all the way. They tackled him, took him out of the cabin. Their flight attendants helped, took him out, and that took 90 seconds. This is the longest, probably minute and a half for anyone that, you know, was actually on the cockpit. Now, the good thing about all this is the people in the plane had no clue this was happening. This was between the pilot, between Joseph David Emerson's, and between the flight attendant. So everyone else had no idea until this whole event came to an end. We'll get to that at the end, you guys, but just think about it. They have no clue what's going on. They are eating their snacks. They're looking out the window. They're taking videos. Everything is looking beautiful. You know, when you're on a flight or you're resting, you're napping, they are relaxing, and no one knows this is happening. This is like so freaking stressful. I am putting myself in their position, and I react really good under pressure. I have to say, if this would have happened, I would have been right on top of it. Listen, I want to save myself. I do have children to come home to, but I also want to save everyone else's lives, including the pilot, including everyone sitting in there, and including the person that's doing the damage, because I want to make sure that we need to figure out what the heck is going on with him, right? And we want to make sure that we get him safely to the ground so we can get an explanation of what went on. All right, if we can get to that point. So the minute that he got out, you guys, he was walked to the back of the plane. Okay, that must have been the longest walk for the flight attendants helping. Once he was walked to the back of the plane, you guys, the cockpit door closed was locked automatically, so it's safe, so he cannot get back in, which is so important. We want to keep those pilot and co-pilot extremely safe in the cockpit. The minute that he walked to the end of the plane, he said, and I quote, "I just got kicked out of the cockpit or the flight deck, whichever. You need to cuff me right now or it's going to be bad." Oh my God. Oh, so this pilot, you guys, not a pilot, he's a captain at this point, right? He's done so many hours and so many years and have flown daily. He gets out and says, "You better cuff me because it's going to get really bad." Like he could feel whatever he was feeling. Remember when he was saying, I'm not okay to the pilot? He was telling them, just hurry up and do this because I'm going to do something bad in the plane. Could you believe that? The terror that these flight attendants were feeling. Anyways, they handcuffed him. We have zip ties. They made sure that it was nice and, you know, nice and tight so he wouldn't go anywhere. And they were very comforting though. They were telling him, don't worry, we're going to get you help. We're going to get there. You'll be okay. They were kind of working with him and they were trying to let them know that, hey, he's not alone and we are here to help you. So that is very professional from the flight attendants, but I could just imagine how stressful that situation was. Now, this wasn't it, you guys. So they sat him there in the back. All right. We have little seats there that we can sit where we take off and land. So they sat him in the back of the plane. And guys, I swear to God, he tried to grab emergency handle. Yes. He stood up and tried to grab the emergency. Could you just picture him handcuffs together, trying to grab the emergency handle and opening it? Oh my gosh, obviously with the pressure of the plane, it's almost impossible to open unless you are starting to descend and you are getting closer to the ground. That's when you can actually activate and open the door because the pressure isn't as much as when you are 30,000 feet. But could you imagine? He was trying and he was trying. Now he was stopped by the flight attendant. He was subdued again and he was talked to just to calm him down. Now at this point, the pilots diverted the plane because they knew, obviously, we need to get this guy off the plane. He is a danger to flight attendants, to us, to everyone in the plane. We don't know what he's capable of. All right. He was diverted to Portland, Oregon. So remember, they were supposed to leave Everett, Washington and head to San Francisco. They ended up diverting the plane, going to Portland, Oregon. Gosh, could you imagine what a crazy ride that was, you guys? It's incredible.
Give you a heads up. We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's subdued. Other than that, yeah, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and park.
Now, let's go back to who this guy was. Like I said, he was very reputable. He was loved by his community. He was said to be one of the best father in the area. He even built like a basketball court for his children. He would play with them. The neighbors loved them. They had sleepovers. They would send the kids over to his house. He would send his kids over to them. Family was very, very united. There was no apparent issues or situation. Everybody came forward in the neighborhood, said he would never hurt a fly. Like, there's no way that he wanted to endanger everyone. He was a great guy. He was a great neighbor. He was a great man. He was a great father. Apparently, there was a neighbor who had a child that had Down syndrome. And apparently, he was so patient with him. And he was such a great role model to his child. So he was talking about how he was just the greatest man in the neighborhood. And it was Halloween and they had posted like Halloween decoration outside and they really loved their children. He was married to Sarah Stretch. Now, Sarah Stretch, she was actually a swimming coach, you guys. So she was very known in the community as well. They were known as a couple and they were really loved. She was a physical ed instructor as well. And like I said, they had 2 sons together and they seem apparently very happy. I will post some pictures here so you guys could see. I know pictures can be deceiving, especially when you're on social media. You always kind of appear like you're perfect. But she said that, you know, her husband never showed any signs of you know, of wanting to do this. Let's just say he got on the plane and nobody thought that this was his goal that day, obviously. But she did mention that that weekend. Okay, so let's kind of go back. He was commuting to go to work. Prior to that, he was hanging out with some guys. Now, from what I understand, his best friend passed away recently. All right, I believe he was jogging in Hawaii, and from what I understand, passed away. I don't know if it was for medical reason. I'm not sure. I was trying to dig online and I couldn't find that some more information on that. But that got him so sad and got him in a depressed state. Okay. Unfortunately, because he was depressed, he stopped sleeping. So he hadn't slept for at least 48 hours. Now, him and the boys were hanging out together. While they were hanging out together, allegedly doing some mushroom. Now, mushroom, as you all know, it's some kind of drugs, right? And it kind of changes your state of mind. And I also heard that it put him in a state where he kept saying, wake me up, I'm in a dream. Like for him, whatever was happening was kind of like out of a dream. He wasn't all there. Okay. They said that he went through a nervous breakdown, and that was the effects of the mushrooms and the lack of sleep and all that. Now, you guys have to understand that when you're a pilot or a flight attendant, if you do show any sign that you are not okay mentally, you can get your license revoked, okay? Because you are in charge of a lot of passengers, and like I said, very, very heavy and expensive equipment. So it is really hard for pilots to come forward and be like, I have this health issue. I'm like going crazy, or I'm depressed, or I'm not feeling well. A lot of times when you do say those things, you can be pulled out of your trip, and then you're examined by a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever it is, because it's for safety reason, which is understandable. But sometimes a lot of pilots don't want to go that route because they don't want to lose their job. Because if you are diagnosed as, you know, not insane, but someone that's just not coherent would need to be, or you're too depressed right now to handle a flight, then there can be repercussion with your job. So a lot of times this job requires you to be at 100% at all times. And you know, we are human, you guys, and we have good days, bad days like everyone else. We're not superheroes, and there's so much pressure for pilots to be their best at all times. And that goes for us as well, you guys. Like if we're not at our best, the pressure isn't as bad as when you're piloting, because you're the one that's really in charge of everything. We are kind of like their assistant, their extension, if you will. We're like their hands. You know, we're reaching out to the back, and we can do things that they can't, obviously. And we can do things that they can. So we're kind of like, we complete each other, but at the same time, they have so much responsibility, you guys, and it's almost like you're not allowed to have a bad day. Obviously, you can't drink before you go to work. You can't be depressed, because if you are, then you might looked upon differently. And, you know, depression is a real thing, all right? And if they have to give you drugs for that, then you obviously can't fly. It's obvious that you can't drive. So they kind of pull you out, and then you're seen different by your peers, and it's really hard for you to get your job back, especially if you're being honest to them and letting them know really what's going on in your head. So a lot of pilots are sleep deprived, you guys. A lot of them sleep in the crew room just because between flights, we don't have time to go home or take a flight home and commute home and come back. Sometimes it's not worth it, so they will sleep in the crew room. So they are sleep deprived. They go through so much, and I feel for him. I really do. I think even though he was perfectly fine, like his wife said, I talked to him that weekend, he just didn't seem like himself. He was off. Something was wrong. You know, when you've been married to someone for so long, you know them inside and out. And she kept saying in her interview that there was just something just off about him, and it was worrisome, but she didn't, I don't think she made a big thing out of it. She just probably felt like, hey, he's going through a sad moment. His best friend passed away, and it's understandable. Maybe he was going through something, but she did not know that he was under the influence of mushroom. Now, we don't know if this was the first time that he took it. We don't know if he had been taking it. We don't know if he was under other kind of drug, you know, influences or whatnot. All we know is that he took that. My thing is, he had said that he took that 48 hours prior to taking that flight that he was taking commuting. I read that mushroom does not stay more than 6 to 8 hours in your system. So there's kind of like a gap there. There's something here that I'm not quite sure, you know, that it's staying in the system longer. I don't know how it affects you. I've read a lot of doctor's note and stuff about that. It could affect you long-term in other ways, but if you do take it, the hardest effects, like the strongest effects, is usually within 6 to 8 hours. That's when you're really feeling like you're hallucinating and all this stuff is going on, a little bit like the way he was, like he said, dreaming, like, wake me up, I'm in a dream. To be honest, I don't really know what went on. I wasn't there. Again, this is allegedly, you know, this is all information that I got online. You guys can do your own research. It is also sad that he had a nervous breakdown. He was kind of depressed about 6 months prior to that, but I don't think anyone, you know, kind of took to that or attended to him. I think the fact that no one did, I think just things escalate sometimes and get really bad. Again, from the outside, he was living in a $1.2 million home, 4-bedroom in California. His house was in Pleasant Hill. Everything seemed so perfect from the outside. Like I said, all of his neighbors loved him, loved the family. Wife was professional. Kids were happy. He was a great dad. He was very present. He was always playing with them. So it's kind of sad to know that he got to that point mentally. But what I'm happy is that he's now getting the help that he needs. Unfortunately, he'll never be able to be a captain or fly again. And if you guys are a flight attendant or a captain or a pilot and you're watching this, you guys know that when you fly, there's just a feeling that you get. I can't explain it. It's almost like an addiction. You see a plane, you hear a plane, and you look up, right? You're in a plane, you just get this high, and it's so addicting to travel, all right? That's why people travel for a living, because they love it. I love the travel feeling. I love taking my kids to travel. So it's going to be so hard for him to just kind of major in something else afterwards. I just hope he gets the help that he needs. I truly do. Unfortunately, there was 80 passengers that day and 4 flight attendants. So you're looking at 83 counts of endangerment. He was faced with 83 counts of attempted murder, you guys. Like, that's no joke. He was indicted on 83 counts of recklessness and 1 count per person of endangering another person. So the jury did not end up charging him with 83 counts of attempted murder, because apparently he never attempted to hurt anyone. At the end of the day, this was not something that he wanted to do. He didn't go in there saying, I am going to kill everyone. That was not his intention. He just wanted to go home. Seriously, he wanted to go home to his children and to his wife. His hearing was on December 7th, and it included misdemeanor charges, and he posted bail right after that. So hopefully he can get the help that he needs, you guys. Let's pray for him and his family. I'm so glad that nothing tragic happened. It could have been worse than it is now. This plane could have, you know, taken a different route, but I want to thank all the flight attendants that were on that flight, as well as the pilots who reacted so quickly to that incident and worked as a team, and definitely you know, kind of had everyone leave basically in one piece and nothing tragic happened. So let's pray for that. And also let's pray for him and his family so he can get the help that he needs. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please comment down below. What are your thoughts? What do you guys think? Like, if you were on that flight, would you have noticed that something is off? And you know, do you know someone that was on that flight? Have you heard anything about that? If you have, please comment down below. If you do enjoy these type of videos, I will make more. I think they're very fascinating, and I think it's really interesting to bring true crime to life, and so we can comment about them and we can kind of cover some you know, some opinions together. So all right, I hope you guys enjoy this. It was so nice chatting with you guys. Again, check out flyingwithshelly.com. All my links are down below. Check out my schedule. Hire me for a one-on-one, and I am here for you guys to help you achieve your goal in becoming a flight attendant or a pilot. All right, guys, I love you guys, and see you later. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye. If you or anyone suffers from mental illness or is feeling really depressed and don't have anyone to talk to, check out the number right under the screen here. I will leave it a link down below as well. Please call. Just talk to someone. They are there to help. Just call now and get the help that you need, and they are there for you. All right. Thank you.